Hi, my name is Ben, and welcome to a super easy English lesson. Today, we're going to be talking about pots and pans, about things that you might use in the kitchen to cook. When you put stuff inside here and you cook it up, then you eat it. You're cooking in the kitchen. And we're going to talk about the things, the physical objects that you might use in order to cook, that you might have in your kitchen, and that I might have in my kitchen. So first, the kitchen is the room where you might cook. So for example, you might have a kitchen that has a counter. So here's a counter. How did I get white? There we go. There's a counter. You might have a sink or something. A sink is where water comes out, right? So you've got water coming out of the sink. You might also have something like a stove. Usually a stove has some burners on it. These are burners, and you might have gas on them, and you can put your pot on the burner and turn it on, and it lights with fire to heat up the pot, right? So this one is a pot. There's a pot there, sort of thing. This is a pot. You can also call this a saucepan. This is a saucepan. It's made of metal. Metal, like my ring. My ring is also made of metal. This is called a pot or a saucepan, but not a pan. A pan is flat. Sort of like this, right? There's the pan part and the handle. It's much smaller, much flatter than a pot, which is bigger, usually heavier, right? A pot, it might weigh a lot more. It's super heavy. It's very heavy. But a pan is usually is smaller and lighter, easy to pick up. It's very light. And pots and pans are the most normal things to use, right? So you might have also a pot like this, which has some handles here on the side and a lid on top, right? The lid you take off and you can smell the food because you took off the lid. If the lid is on, there's no smell. When you take off the lid, you take the lid off. So imagine this is the lid on top and I take it off, on, off. You can smell the food in the pot. You might also have an oven in your house or your kitchen. An oven usually has like a rack inside of it, right? So there's like this sort of rack in there, and you can put food inside there, and it gets very hot. It gets, it's really hot because there's fire, and it cooks the food. So this is your oven. This is your stove. Remember, you have your sink over here where water comes out. You might also have a garbage can, right? So a garbage can, let's see if I can draw a garbage can. Something like this. Might have a little foot on it here that opens the lid. You press down on the pedal and the lid comes up. And you throw stuff in there, right? Garbage. So it's the garbage can. That's also in the kitchen. You might also have some utensils or some things to cook with. For example, a spatula, right? A spatula you use to scoop up food like this. This is a spatula. You might also have a sort of long spoon, right? Maybe you taste it. You taste with a spoon, or you stir with a spoon, right? Spoons are very useful in the kitchen. It's a very large spoon. A small spoon, right? Like a little spoon like this might be a soup spoon or a teaspoon for eating with, right? You eat with a soup spoon, or how do you hold a spoon? Like this? Something like that. A fork is different, all right? A fork has different teeth on it, right? So sort of like teeth, these things on a fork. A real fork is more like a little more orderly, like that. That's a fork, F-O-R-K, versus a spoon, right? Which has that, the part that looks a bit like this, where you scoop up food with. But to cook, you're going to use a big spoon, right? A much bigger spoon for cooking with. But yeah, what other things are in your kitchen? Perhaps you have some drawers, right? You might have some drawers in your kitchen. That's a drawer. There's another drawer. And you might keep inside your drawers. So you open the drawer and you put inside, right? So you something like the pan or the pots or the lids, right? There's lots of different kinds of kitchen supplies or kitchen tools that you have in your entire kitchen. Something else you might have is a very large pot, right? So this is a big pot with some handles here, some handles. Let's do that. This might be called a stock pot, a stock pot. A stock pot you might make stock or soup in because they're really big, right? This one is pretty small. This is maybe, let's see, about this size, right? So this is how, this is a saucepan, right? This is the saucepan. But then this one, this big one, is way bigger, right? A stock pot. And you can find pots and pans of many different sizes, right? You can also find, like I said, sort of a bigger one, right? This is for bigger foods, right? I have one of these. I have 4 different pots like this. I have 4 pots and 3 pans in my kitchen. So in my kitchen, I have 4 pots, 4 pots, 3 pans. Go away. So I have my saucepan, which is, let's do it in red. So it's this guy, boop, right? Here's my sauce pan. That's very high up. Let's move this down a little bit. There we go. So that's my saucepan. I also have a slightly bigger one. That's too big. I have a little bit of a bigger one, right? It's a bit like this. This is my bigger saucepan, I guess. It doesn't really have a name. Saucepan. And then I also have my, I would call this, what would I call this? I would call this just a pot. I would just call this a pot, I think. My pot. Boop, exclamation mark. Then I also have a big one. This is my stock pot, right? My very big one is a stock pot. So it's my stock pot. I also have 3 pans, like I said. I have 3 pans. So I have a relatively large cast iron, no, carbon steel. It's not really a skillet. It's a pan. So it's a carbon steel pan. And that is the type of pan that it is. It's made of carbon steel. This is aluminum. My other one is made of carbon steel, not aluminum. It's not made of aluminum. It's made of carbon steel. I also have a non-stick pan. So that's sort of like this, right? So, sort of like that. This is called a non-stick pan. They're very similar. They're similar, but they're not the same. So this is my non-stick pan. I don't like it that much. I don't use it very often, only sometimes, right? Maybe once or twice a month. So not very often. I don't really like it that much. And then I have a large pan. I have a much larger pan made of stainless steel. That's again the material. This is aluminum, but the other one is stainless steel. So it's this sort of, it's really big. It's a very big pot, right? You can see this one is it's normal size, but this one is whomp big. So I call this my big pan because I can make a lot of food in it for 5 people, right? It's a very big pan for 5 or 6 people, even 5 or even 6 people at a time. So those are all of my pots and pans, that I have in my kitchen. So that is going to end our episode for today. That is the end of this video. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you learned something. If you did, down in the comments below, write to me a comment. You write to me and tell me, what did you learn? What did you enjoy? And maybe what wasn't as interesting. But that is everything. Make sure that you subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. Goodbye.